Hello, my friend. I am so excited to dive into this week's podcast episode for you on this month's astrology. It's going to be an eventful April. We still are in eclipse season, then Mercury retrograde will officially begin, and honestly, it's going to be a very spicy month, a very healing month. I'm super excited to dive into this. And in this episode, I'll be diving into the major dates of April in terms of the astrology. I'll then be going through the transits of this week, of what to expect, what energy to embrace. I then will be sharing a really interesting story on relationship patterns, specifically from my life, and how astrology has really helped me understand my relationship patterns. So that's going to be super juicy. And finally, I will end this podcast episode with a tarot reading of what energy to embrace, what energy to let go of. So let's just dive right into this. Starting off with the major dates of this month. Mercury retrograde begins in the sign of Aries on April 1st. So Mercury will be retrograde from April 1st to the 25th. With Mercury retrograde, expect delays, expect some frustration. Mercury rules our thinking and communication, so things can feel a bit tricky. We could feel like there is some kind of communication issue in terms of either us not knowing the words to something or someone misunderstands us in some form. We could be really in a place where we're impatient in the sign of Aries. I will say this will be a more spicier Mercury retrograde in the sign of Aries, and also a very healing one at that, because Chiron is also in Aries. So what this means is with this Mercury retrograde, we're really thinking and reflecting on our past in terms of who we are, what are our desires, what do we want. And with Chiron also being in Aries, Chiron is known as the wounded healer. It's an asteroid really specific to our deepest wounds of what we're trying to heal this lifetime. Currently, Chiron is in Aries. So Aries placements are going through this deep healing stage, and we all have Aries in our chart. So what's really important to note with this is that we're going to really reflect on our past and how we can heal our sense of worthiness. What made us feel unworthy to receive? What made us feel unworthy of our desires? What made us feel unworthy of our wants? What made us feel unworthy to go after our dreams? What made us feel unworthy to receive love? So this is going to be a really healing time. And we're still in eclipse season as well. So what's super interesting is we have a solar eclipse in Aries on April 8th. So these two astrological events overlap with each other. This is really important to note. With a solar eclipse in Aries, this is a brand new beginning in terms of who we are, how we see ourselves, our desires, and it will affect us all differently. I want to point that out. Eclipses are very chaotic. They bring in fated events, and we can feel very on edge. We can feel like we need to start something new with this eclipse that is really out there. This eclipse will be a bit more intense than the previous eclipse. I will be breaking down this eclipse more specifically next week, so stay tuned for that episode because it's going to be so juicy and super important. Yet I want you to remember that we can feel very overwhelmed with eclipse season. It's okay to feel exhausted, it's okay to feel tired, it's okay to feel emotional, it's okay to feel a lot, right? Because this is a lot of energy. Now with Mercury retrograde also happening, it's more famously known as exes coming back, or us really connecting with people from our past. Now, this is because Mercury appears to be moving backward in the sky. It's not actually moving backwards, it's an optical illusion. However, the past and nostalgia and reflection are really heavily highlighted during a Mercury retrograde. So it's a time to slow down, whereas eclipse season wants us to speed up. So there's this push-pull energy this month that is very heavily highlighted. Take time for breaks, take time to rest, take time to heal, take time for yourself when you need it, because it's going to be super, super important this month. This isn't the month to force anything to happen. Now, I do want to mention on April 5th, Venus enters Aries. I'll be diving deeper into that for the weekly transits. Then on April 19th, Taurus season begins, and then we have a very, very rare astrological event happening on April 20th that I want to highlight for you, which is the Jupiter-Uranus conjunction in Taurus. So this astrological event hasn't happened since January 2011. So it's been a long time, and it hasn't happened in the sign of Taurus since 1941. Jupiter and Uranus are both slow-moving planets, so this makes sense. And Jupiter is the planet of luck, expansion, abundance, growth, opportunities, and wisdom. Uranus is the energy of shock, of disruption, of breakthroughs, of innovation. So when these two planets come together, we can get some very unexpected blessings coming our way. We could get some unexpected opportunities. We could get a breakthrough around our finances. We can get a breakthrough around our environment in the sign of Taurus. We could potentially just experience something where we're finally realizing a pivotal thing that needs to change in our lives. In the past, a lot of new technological advancements, such as scientific discoveries, emerged during these times. And honestly, themes around food, our environment, our finances, how we make money, housing, and art are heavily highlighted with this. So this is really, really interesting. I dove deeper as to what this means for your signs in the 2024 horoscopes. You could check that out through the link down below for your rising sign and your sun sign, because it will affect you in a different way. Now, they are meeting up at 21 degrees of Taurus, so keep this in mind. This is honestly going to be very exciting. I'm really, really excited to see what comes out of this. I do think we're going to get some very interesting, exciting news with this transit. So take note of this date. And then on April 23rd, we have a full moon in Scorpio. Then on April 25th, Mercury retrograde ends. Then on April 29th, Venus enters Taurus, which is its home sign. That's going to be super, super lovely. And then finally, we end off the month with Mars entering Aries on April 30th, which is also its home sign. So how we take action, how we work, how we date is going to change based on this in terms of a collective. So I'll be diving deeper into that closer to the date. So let's get into your weekly forecast. So again, April 1st, Mercury retrograde begins. We're gonna have some technical issues. This honestly is a good time to back up your files, double check your contracts, expect delays, schedule in extra time if you're traveling anywhere. This is a time when we can get really lost in the past, so make sure you aren't dwelling in the past. Make sure you're not overly consumed by the past during a Mercury retrograde. Now, everyone does fear Mercury retrogrades. However, I think there is such a beneficial time for us to really reflect on what we really need and want. It's a time for us to edit and revise any old projects, so this can be super, super helpful. We could also reconnect with old friends and people from the past. I do think we're going to have some very healing conversations in terms of relationships with this transit. And the reason why I've said it's a bit spicier is because Aries is a fire sign. And Aries is very impatient, it's very bold. It's a sign where we're trying to embrace our courage and really embrace putting ourselves out there, taking the leap. So, because things might be slowed down with a Mercury retrograde, I think we're going to be in a place where we're really reflecting on how do we find our own courage to take action towards what we want? How do we improve our relationship to ourselves? What does that look like? How do we become our own best friends? How do we show ourselves that love and compassion that we really, really need to just cultivate our sense of worthiness and realize that we're worthy just as we are? You don't have to do anything to be worthy. You don't have to produce to be worthy. You don't have to do anything. You can just be worthy. Think of a small child, right? Because they don't need to do anything to be worthy of love. They don't need to do anything to be worthy of their desires. They don't need to do anything to receive. They're already worthy just as they are. So think of yourself as a small child and really remember this, that you're innately worthy. Now, on April 3rd, Venus is conjunct Neptune in the sign of Pisces. So this is an interesting transit. Our relationships and our finances can be a bit confusing during this time. This is a time where we could go on a very romantic date. We could also just really experience art in a beautiful form. We could just feel super spiritual this day, or just very connected to the universe. I will say that sometimes this transit can look like relationships not being fully honest with you. This can sometimes look like relationships gaslighting you or some kind of manipulation. Keep this in mind. It could just feel very confusing. So make sure you're still setting boundaries on this day. Make sure you're aware of this. And finances this day can feel very confusing. There could be something that happens where you're just not understanding why it was happening. You're just not understanding why it's so confusing for you in terms of how you're handling money or how someone's giving you money. We could feel a bit drained in our relationships during this time too. So take note of this. Then on April 5th, Venus enters Aries, and Venus is the planet of values. It's how we show love and affection. And Venus in Aries is very bold. It's very daring. It wants the excitement of a relationship. It wants to chase. It wants that passion and drive. So it can be really fun and flirty. However, this can be a lot when first meeting someone. This can also be a bit overwhelming in terms of a relationship dynamic. Take note of this. So we're all going to feel this energy collectively. And what's really interesting is that we'll have a stellium in Aries at the beginning of April. So we'll have so much fire energy of go, 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 of pushing through, of wanting new beginnings and passion and drive. But then Mercury retrograde is asking us to please slow down. So it's going to be such an interesting first week in April in terms of the astrology. Again, take time to rest, recharge, do not power through. Our bodies are going to really need that rest. Honestly, I do really think April's astrology is exciting. There's a lot of shifts and changes. Even though Mercury retrograde is going to slow things down quite a bit, it's going to be super, super helpful for us to heal, to let go of the past, to really understand our own sense of worthiness, our own desires in terms of our businesses, if you have a business, in terms of your dreams, in terms of doing something for yourself, and how can you prioritize yourself even more so. Honestly, it's going to be a very eventful month. Keep me posted as to what happens for you. I want to dive into relationships for this month's podcast, especially in terms of romantic relationships. So the reason I got into astrology long ago was because I started to notice such a strong relationship pattern in my life. And it's so interesting for me to reflect on because it's happened since I was in grade 5 or 6. And what's interesting is throughout my entire life, I would be attracting Scorpios. And I was so confused by this. I'm like, why is everyone who wants to be friends with me a Scorpio? Why is everyone who has a crush on me a Scorpio? Why is this happening? And the funny thing is, I noticed this at such a young age. I noticed this at the age of like 10 or 11. I was in elementary school. There were a few guys that were born between November 6th to November 11th. And it's super interesting to reflect on this now because, okay, this makes sense based on my specific birth chart. I really had to learn astrology to understand the pattern as to why I was attracting those people in my life. Why were certain people more attracted to me than others? And the funny thing is, in university, I met my first boyfriend who was a Scorpio, and we just clicked. It was such a passionate but also intense relationship. It was my first relationship ever. And it was just so interesting for me in terms of seeing this pattern of the people I would attract because his birthday was November 8th. And then soon after that relationship, after we broke up, I got into another romantic relationship with another Scorpio guy that was born November 7th. And the funny thing is, this was not just my romantic relationships. These were a lot of my friendships at this time. I was attracting a lot of friends that were born during a specific week. And based on my chart, again, this makes so much sense. I really, really had to learn the reason behind this for myself. I really had to learn why I was attracting certain people into my life. Because for me, I really thought those romantic relationships at that time would work out for me. Like, I really thought I would stay with my first ex, but we were together for 7 years. We experienced a Saturn square, which, if you haven't seen my video on that, it's a pivotal time when you're really recalculating and observing, is this relationship for the long haul? Because Saturn makes a square to when it first began at the beginning of the relationship. So a full Saturn cycle is a Saturn return, which is around the ages of 29 to 31. A Saturn square is usually around 7 years. So me and my first ex broke up during a Saturn square. So I got into my second relationship pretty soon afterwards. And for me to think about this now, I had to experience that to really understand my relationship patterns. And my relationships were always very passionate, very obsessive, and there was a lot of depth to them. Scorpios are very deep, right? And I really think I needed to meet those people in my life. I am so grateful for those relationships. And it taught me a lot about love. It taught me a lot about boundaries, what I needed to learn in terms of dating, because based on my birth chart, I started to realize, okay, this makes sense as to why I attracted those people, but now I'm going to do things differently. Now I have to break my family pattern because it's not just about you. It's a lot deeper. Again, our relationship patterns are dictated by our family patterns, and it's super interesting to see in our birth charts because for me, I started to realize, okay, I was attracting these people because of my father. And for those who don't know, my father passed away when I was young, around the age of 11. And he was my favorite person in my life. He was honestly such a loving, caring person. And for me to feel his absence, I was attracting partners that reminded me of him, even though I wasn't intentionally doing that. And it's so interesting to see this in your chart. My father was a Sagittarius moon, and I've only attracted guys who had Sagittarius moons. So it was super, super interesting to see this pattern, because once you see the pattern, then that's when you know, I'm going to keep the great qualities of what I want in a relationship, but I'm going to see, okay, what do I need to change based on my birth chart, based on my own needs in a relationship? Because oftentimes our needs in relationships are reflected based on how we were shown love or received love as a kid. So, how do I do this based on what I know about myself? And basically, your birth chart is this blueprint of how to just manifest the best life for yourself, how to really cultivate a life of fulfillment and love and abundance. And even though I don't have a romantic partner right now, the way I approach dating has changed so much by me understanding my birth chart. The way I've approached my friendships has changed so much by me understanding my birth chart. And the funniest thing is, one of my best friends, she has the same birthday as one of my exes. And that's super interesting for me to see, because that pattern of me attracting a certain person, that doesn't necessarily change. However, it's knowing, okay, this is the pattern, but there's still people within this pattern that I can connect with. There's still people within this pattern that are great for me, that want to be with me long term, right? But it's not maybe in that form that you expect. So you can still use your patterns, use your relationship patterns and your career patterns and your family patterns to your benefit. Because even though I talk a lot about breaking toxic cycles and hard, difficult things that I've gone through in terms of codependency with my relationships. Those previous relationships were very codependent. I've had to let go of people pleasing. I was really abandoning myself in those relationships, which I didn't realize until I started to learn astrology. I didn't realize what I was doing until I understood the bigger plan for my life. And knowing my patterns, I knew which ones I needed to break, because you just have to first become aware of it. You have to first become aware of your patterns, knowing which ones to break. But then there are certain patterns which are your strengths, which is your family gifts, your ancestral gifts that you can fully embrace and see the beauty of, that can actually really help you throughout your life. So, for me personally, one of my gifts is connection. It's okay, yes, I don't have that romantic partner just yet. I can feel the hope, because I know with astrology that things are going to change, because the astrology of the day changes every day. So I know things are going to change. I know I will meet my person. And astrology has given me more trust in the process. Astrology has given me this bigger perspective of the meaning behind my life, that I am the first in my family to heal generational cycles, to heal hard, difficult emotions that have been stuck in my family lineage for centuries, right? So it's super interesting for me how powerful a tool astrology is, because it's honestly transformed my life so much. Like, my relationships now with my friends are so much deeper and so much more fulfilling than they were ever in my life. And that's such a gift. That's such a blessing for me. and me understanding, okay, what are my natural tendencies, which for me personally, it's sometimes I can shy away, I can be afraid to be vulnerable, I can be afraid to express my needs in a friendship. And I've been working on that because I can see it in my chart. I can see it in my 12th house stellium in whole sign. And it's so, so interesting to dive into astrology to use for your everyday life, to benefit your relationships and to really benefit your career as well. Because, of course, you have relationships with your bosses, you have relationships with coworkers, you have relationships with your clients. It's so, so helpful in terms of this. And then it's also seeing yourself as worthy of more. You're seeing yourself as someone who is unique and different, but also how we're all connected, how we're all connected through astrology, which is one of the most beautiful, beautiful things about it. And because of this, I decided to create a course based on this, based on your relationship patterns, based on your career patterns, based on your family patterns, and how they all connect, how all of these areas in your life connect, and how you can start reading your birth chart so that you can improve these areas of your life, so that you can feel more appreciated and more valued for who you are, and just develop that relationship to yourself, but also to the world. So I'm super excited for my course, Shining as Your Authentic Self, from Misunderstood to Highly Appreciated. This is an astrology foundations course for you to really cultivate the skill set of reading your birth chart and reading your friends' birth charts, reading partners' birth charts, reading crushes' birth charts, reading birth charts so you can understand, okay, what do you need to know about this person? How can you connect to them deeper? But also, how can you connect to yourself in a way that allows you to fulfill your needs, to improve your relationships, to improve your career, to really tap into your strengths and overcome any challenge that comes your way. So it's honestly going to be a very empowering course that can completely change your life in terms of seeing yourself in a new light. So I'm super excited. This is going to be such an expansive course. So I do have a pre-sale price for this course. If that interests you, you could check out the link for that down below. It's 50% off if you grab it for the pre-sale price. And I am super, super excited for it. I know it's going to be so much fun. I know you're going to love it. So there's some self-paced modules in the course, but there's also some live Q&As as well with me, and we will be going through everyone's birth chart in this course. So you can really understand this and you can use astrology as a tool for the rest of your life, right? You'll get this course for the rest of your life, which so amazing. So check out the link for that down below. If you're interested, I'm excited to see you. The classes start in April, so come join us. And let's get into your tarot reading for this week. So the first card out is the Hanged Man reverse. So I think we were in a state of just observing what was happening for us for a really long time. We were really looking at things in a different angle, and now we're in a place of we need to start taking action. We need to start taking our observations and putting it into the physical work we need to do. We need to switch things up for ourselves. So I do think we're going to get a huge perspective shift this week that is really going to show us what work we need to do and how we have to take action in a different way. The next card out is the Emperor reverse. So we're feeling a bit wounded this week. We're feeling a little bit like we're disconnected to our authority, our power, our sense of control. We could feel as though we're a little bit insecure this week, and we have this desire to be more creative, to take charge, to really lead other people, and to see the beauty in this. But there's a part of us that doesn't believe in ourselves right now. So maybe you're feeling like, okay, I want to do these things. I want to put myself out there in my business. I want to put myself out there in terms of dating, but maybe I can't do this right now. Maybe there's just this hesitancy that we have, right? And we have a bit of fear. And I want to say that I'm really hearing that we're just feeling a bit more insecure. So just know that this is the time to really reflect internally of, okay, no, you have some beautiful, amazing qualities, right? And this is the time to really see your creativity from within, to really pump yourself up, speak to yourself in a very encouraging, empowering way, to really know that it's okay to take some time to reflect, but write down your accomplishments, write down what you've already accomplished, right? Sometimes you just need that reminder that you've already done a lot. You've already accomplished a lot. So I'm seeing us trying to get back into our power with this week. And the next card out is the Strength card. So this is a week of being vulnerable. I think we're going to have a lot of communication around just feeling a bit more loving and sympathetic and empathetic to those we love. What's interesting about the Strength card to me is we kind of think of strength as pushing through and being bold, and it is that perseverance, yes, but there's this softness to the Strength card. There's this beautiful softness of vulnerability, of being kind, right? Who thinks kindness is strength, right? But you need kindness. Everyone needs kindness. And kindness not in a people-pleasing way. Kindness in a way where you're being kind to yourself because you're respecting your own boundaries, but you can always communicate it in a very kind way. You can always communicate it in a way that respects yourself, but also shows the other person you love and care about them. So with the Strength card this week, really tune into how can you be a bit more vulnerable with the people you love this week? Who do you need to have a conversation with? How are you upholding your boundaries? And in what ways are you self-soothing yourself to move through this week, which I think is really, really needed right now. Our advice card is the Eight of Cups. So there's something we're moving away from this week. There's a difficult situation that we're moving past from and we're trying to let go of. So you could just feel as though you're a bit more emotional about a situation, and this is the card to tell you that you have to leave it behind. You have to either leave that person behind, maybe a memory of an ex, or maybe just a difficult situation and knowing when to say, this isn't for me, right? Maybe just knowing, okay, no, this situation, this job, this event is not for me. And this doesn't mean anything about who I am, right? I'm hearing that message that do not tie your self-worth and self-value with having to make a difficult decision to leave something behind. So take note of this. Whatever you can do to let go of a difficult situation, maybe you have to set a boundary, maybe you just have to quit a difficult, toxic job situation, or maybe it's not the time to go back to a past person. Maybe you don't need that conversation with them like you think you do. So keep this in mind. I asked for a clarifier of this and I got the Family Patterns card reverse. So I call this card the Family Patterns card. I don't know the actual name of this card. It is the extra card in the Rider-Waite-Smith deck. And I always see this card as us understanding our family patterns in a different way. So there might be a situation this week, especially with your mom, is what I'm hearing, that you kind of have to let go of. So maybe you are changing up your family dynamic Maybe you are understanding you're not going to act the same way as your mom used to act with your dad. Maybe you are recognizing your family pattern and realizing, okay, no, I have to change something to improve my family dynamic, to improve my relationship with my mom, to really see how you can nurture yourself and take care of yourself. Maybe you didn't see your mom taking care of herself. Maybe you didn't see her self-love for herself, and that has made you hesitate with cultivating more self-love for yourself. So this week, we're really reflecting on our family patterns and which ones we're choosing to leave behind. Super interesting that these cards came out during my story, but I really feel like this is going to be a very pivotal week while we're in eclipse season, while we're in Mercury retrograde. And I do think we're going to just let go of our family overpowering our thoughts when it comes to what we do or our relationship. I'm hearing this message of like, we're not going to let them tell us that it has to look a certain way, right? So keep this in mind, that maybe your family doesn't understand what you're trying to accomplish for yourself. Maybe your family doesn't understand your business or your values, but this is a week of us understanding what boundaries we need to set in place and how you cannot listen to those voices. How can you know that that is not a reflection of what you should or should not do? You still have the power to decide what you need to do for yourself. You still have the power to decide what is right for you or not right for you. So very important message for this week. The oracle cards you got were celebrate little things. So make sure you are really celebrating your wins this week. It's so important. It's really going to help you nurture yourself and really push forward, stay motivated, keep doing this. You also got it is within reach. So whatever you're thinking of, whatever you're looking for, it is within reach. It's close by, right? And time is fluid. Time is a made-up construct. Just know this, but just keep moving forward and know that what you want and what you desire is out there. It's there for you. You have that desire for a reason, right? If it's not meant for you, you wouldn't have desired it. And maybe it looks a bit different than what you initially thought, but you'll still receive what you truly want from it, which is that feeling, right? We're all just seeking a feeling of love and acceptance and peace and abundance and growth. So you'll still receive those feelings. Just know this. The last card out is Begin Again. So we have that solar eclipse in Aries happening next week, which is going to be such a powerful new beginning for you. Oh my goodness, this is going to be pivotal. So it makes sense with the astrology, but you will have a brand new beginning. And if you want to discover where that new beginning is happening for you based on your chart, but also uncover your eclipse story, if you missed the lunar eclipse in Libra event with the Moon Sign Creative Community, we'll be having another eclipse revelations event for the solar eclipse in Aries of where this new beginning is happening for you in your birth chart. So come join us for that event. I'll leave a link to that down below. It'll be happening on April 8th, and replays will be available if you're listening to this afterwards. We'll be diving deep into your eclipse story from 2013 to 2016, but also major dates that happened last year during the Aries Libra eclipses and how it relates to you right now, what this means for you right now and what your eclipse story is. So it's honestly going to be a very powerful event. We keep getting new people signing up for the community. It's always so much fun. I have such an amazing, empathetic, kind, supportive community. It's so much fun making new friends in the community. So come join us if that interests you. I'll leave a link to that down below. And if you really want to go from feeling misunderstood in your relationships to not understanding why you're attracting certain people in your life, to why you have toxic bosses, to why there's certain things that are happening in your life and you're just not understanding why and how to break the pattern, then check out my newest course, Shining as Your Authentic Self, from misunderstood to highly appreciated. This is the course for you if you really want to transform your life and understand how you can fully use astrology to be a conscious creator of your life, to see the higher purpose of your challenges and know, okay, I know what to do now. I know what to do to change my patterns, to have the tools I need, and just feel more valued in your relationships and attract the person you want to attract the friends that really support you, that really uplift you, attract that romantic partner that you know you'll love because you know how to choose them now. You know which person to choose. So it's going to be such a great course, and I'll leave a link to that down below. Thank you so much for listening, friend. Happy April, happy eclipse season, happy Mercury retrograde. I'm sending you so much love. Take care.